The problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds. Welcome to Sarah's Country, of course your daily fix of all things food and farming. I'm your host Sarah Perriam, and it is with great pleasure I dedicate my life to connecting curious consumers with passionate producers. Mediums that give an open and transparent way of looking at how the New Zealand food and fibre industry tick can only have good impact on uniting every Kiwi with why we are so proud to produce the most nutritious, environmentally friendly products. Like we celebrate the men and women in black, it is time that we put our food and fibre on the same pedestal. If this is your first time, don't worry, I won't bite. Sarah's Country is all about celebrating who we are as rural Kiwis, as well as getting dirty when we need to on the challenges that we face. We have a great show lined up for you tonight that will mount your heart in places. It will drive you to contribute to the mission in others and debate the solutions towards our challenges in your head, I'm sure. I know we as a country have been certainly debating the New Zealand way of responding to COVID-19 and what the best response is going to be to balance, of course, this way of life and the economy and, of course, a health pandemic. Listening to Jacinda at 1 o'clock, as many of you may have or just watched on the news, what level 2 will mean when we move there out of lockdown, as it has been for us here for the past 6 weeks. Joel, Minister of COVID here at Perriam Media on the campus at Lincoln University, you've been pretty chuffed. From what you have heard from back in the UK about New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, people back home seem to be pretty excited about how well New Zealand's done compared to the UK government anyway. Yeah.
What about, the whole term that Jacinda used?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it was during that, she's done brilliantly, but just every other word in that original speech, just go hard, go hard, go home, go early, all that. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Do you think it was the sort of wrong choice of words? Go hard, go early?
No, I think it made sense, but Okay,
I think her words today were a sort of similar vein. Play it safe. Repeatedly, sort of throughout the press conference, play it safe, sort of sounded like it may have been sponsored by Durex. But hallelujah, all of the things we can now do soon. What are you most excited about doing under level 2? Tell me in the comments below, and I'll be reading them out throughout the show. Mine, I'll let you know, getting my hair done, because I'll let you in on a little secret, just you watching and listening. Don't you tell anyone. I'm not actually blonde. So I'm really looking forward to, of course, seeing my favourite Russian, Vladimir, shortly. Not much of a secret is tonight, of course, we're live streaming across the world and Sarah's Country right now, 10 plus platforms, and the thousands that are now listening to us every week on demand. So what is that thing you're most looking forward to doing? Is it going out for dinner with 2 meters apart, reuniting with your family or friends? I really want to know, what is that one thing you're going to do when we get out of level 2? And of course, it hasn't been announced when, just what level 2 will look like. Tonight on Sarah's Country, I have been talking on the show about following the fear of I've been talking on the show about my fear that we can damage our reputation with one photo of animals not in good condition in mud going into the winter. Of course, no fault of the farmers under intense pressure from the drought and lack of feed. We will be joined after 7:20 by a mate of mine, Duncan Hum, who daily is the thumbs behind the posts as editor of the largest rural New Zealand social media platform known as NZ Farming. I often have some great discussions with Duncan about the farming community's aggressive behaviour in reaction to untruths and misunderstandings, and how it won't be helping our image. Of course, also the algorithms. We will talk about the positives and negatives of social media and how we can educate ourselves to use it more effectively. I'd love any questions that you've got for Duncan, of course, in the comments below. He is calling the latest drought relief $500 million patronising to farmers. After 7:30, we will be joined on Sarah's Country by National Party spokesman for Agriculture, Todd Muller. And I caught up with Todd earlier today to discuss MPI's recent news to fund coordinators for feed in both islands. But also, what is really going on with David Parker being under pressure, I'm hearing, to drop one of his portfolios? Will it be trade or the environment? To close the show, I'm excited to have the brave and inspiring 19-year-old young woman known as Polly Renton. She's talking to me from Hawke's Bay, and I think that she's brilliantly illustrated to us all, it doesn't matter who you are, we all have the ability to help someone less fortunate. Polly started a week ago the Hawke's Bay Drought Facebook group, and within a week, up to 2,000 members of farmers being able to share their struggles with each other, find feed, and cheer each other up. So good. To kick off the show, we are talking about what it really means to eat New Zealand. Every person connected to the process that delivers food and fibre from source to the consumer has been touched by the swing of support to local producers. But it's the understanding that's deeper than that and where the opportunity lies. And I'll be joined by Angela Clifford shortly on Eat New Zealand. I wanted to first, though, share you, and please, if you see any great rural-focused memes or videos, please share them with me so I can share them on Sarah's Country. Just before, a friend sent me this video and she said, this is kind of what I think New Zealand will look like when we come out of level 3, cow style. This is Sarah's Country.
The Hui's been great. It's they've got a nice mix of people. There's something for everyone.
It is really current. You know, I've been to the last 4. I think there's been Auckland, then one Wellington, then Christchurch, and this one here, and there's just different every year.
It's important because our industry keeps evolving and we need to make sure that we're supporting it and doing the best for it so that we can continue through into the future.
Now, if you're watching along live, that video I've just played for you there was captured at the Food Hui last year. For our international guests, a hui is the Māori word for a gathering to have a conversation, and that's what our next guest is all about. The trend of hyper-local consumerism has been described as a huge opportunity we have been looking for the food and fibre sector to be able to connect our curious consumers about how their food and fibre is produced. Experiential knowledge. So when we experience something, that is when we retain the most amount of knowledge. It's something I'm super passionate about. You think we use our 5 senses. We see, touch, feel, hear and smell. And emotions are then attached to that. And that is what stays with us in terms of patriotism towards something or loyalty towards something. Eat New Zealand, the non-profit food movement that believe our homegrown food is, of course, world class. the quality of our produce, the skill, creativity and passion of our people, our spirit, our respect and openness means the food we create is of the highest global standard. And you know what? As Kiwis, we are as close to the source as you can get. So pull up a seat at our table as we cross now to what is known as the Food Farm. We were joined by Eat New Zealand CEO Angela Clifford. Good evening, Angela.
Good evening, Sarah.
Now, I've got a goodie down here. Jolanda Williams has said she's really looking forward to the kids going back to school under level 2. I know your mother. How are you coping?
Oh, yeah, look, I'm just hanging out for Sunday. I've made it quite clear it needs to be a very special Mother's Day this year. So, yes, it's one day at a time around here. My kids have been amazing.
Isn't it hard though, because, you know, they came from you and this is the bit too. And it's kind of like karma in a way. I think that's what's going to come and get me anyway. I'm a bit nervous about it.
Yeah, I mean, amazing kids to even be able to completely transform their learning into online, but it just definitely creates a different dynamic as they try to work out how to make this all work. So massive respect, but looking forward to my own bubble at some point.
Yes, absolutely. Angela, firstly, can I say on behalf of New Zealand food producers to actually thank you for all the hard work you tirelessly do to open up the conversations that we need to have. I mean, what you've been, I really want to know what your proudest moment has been, say, in the last year or so, of where the conversation is now from where you started.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, and it's quite ironic given our current circumstances, probably my proudest moment was being in New York City last November with New Zealand Tourism talking about our food and wine story, and Toronto as well. It was just a culmination of a number of years of really hard work convincing tourism of the value of food and our food and beverage story. And it sort of culminated in that moment, and it felt like an amazing moment, and the landscape looked beautiful and wonderful ahead. And then just, you know, sort of 3 months later, things have changed majorly, obviously for tourism, but for food in general, definitely.
Level 2 is a huge opportunity for us to reconnect with our own domestic tourism. I mean, there isn't just a lost opportunity because our international tourists won't be here for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a massive opportunity to reset everything. So a chance to put food and food producers at the forefront, and to enable our regional food stories to be unearthed, and to convince New Zealanders to become ambassadors for our national food story. You know, they've just done some research around what we're expecting around food, regional tourism moving forwards. And interestingly, the statistics suggested that a huge amount, like over 80%, expected that food experiences would lead their regional tourism experience. So, I mean, we've never had a better opportunity, really, to reset and to put food at the centre of our tourism story, I think.
Now, Angela, and something for your knowledge that you're probably not aware about me, as well as the fact of the audience wouldn't know, but back 10 years ago, I was just finishing up 3 years of managing the Lugget Hotel outside of Wanaka. And it's a beautiful schist, gorgeous old historic hotel right outside a major tourist place like Wanaka in Central Otago, which has got beautiful food, beautiful wine. And I felt at the time when I took it over that there was a real disconnect still. It was strange to me, coming from a farming background, that we weren't utilising that hospitality operation to do that. So had the privilege of being able to host dinners and bring food producers and winemakers and everything together. And it was just the real start for how powerful that is. But then to go to another hospitality place in New Zealand that is far more expensive and ask the waiters, well, where does this come from? And to a blank stare is such a lost opportunity.
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I think a big part of Eat New Zealand's mission over the last few years has been connecting those different parts of our food system, from agriculture to agribusiness to hospitality and tourism. And they're just not they haven't been natural bedmates, and there's a whole lot of reasons for that. But one of our biggest challenges has been that sort of de-siloing or silo busting that sits around our food. And connecting those different pieces of the system back together again. And you're right, the opportunity to tell our stories in that space is incredible, and nobody can compete with us, you know. There's such unique, connected, authentic stories that if we tell them really well, then we lead the world. So nobody can come at us, whereas they might be able to come at us around mountains or lakes or whatever, but our food stories truly belong to us. So I think that's a big opportunity.
There has been a lot of discussion around the fact that New Zealand, being such a young country, originally, you know, a lot of us from Europe and the UK, haven't had a chance over 150 years to really develop our own cuisine. And so therefore we don't really know what we're selling. But I argue that too.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. My argument in return would be we actually have an incredibly amazing, rich and long history of Indigenous food culture and people and stories and ingredients that belong uniquely on a global scale to this place only. It's just that we haven't been particularly good at acknowledging or unearthing those stories. And that comes about, I think, from being a colony. You know, we were the paddock in the ocean for the motherland. And so we were never encouraged to have any self-identity around that. And I think times are changing. I think more than ever, even just over the last 6 weeks, that sort of sense of national pride and what it is that we can achieve when we all work together collectively is hugely powerful. So, yeah, I think we have a cuisine. I think we have a food nation. Yep.
Angela, I think also what's missing is I like to call myself a connector. I really get off on being able to know someone and then know who they need to talk to, and you are exactly the same as that. In a webinar that I was witnessing that you were presenting at a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the fact that a lot of producers of value-added products don't actually know that there is a source of that particular type of product here in New Zealand, and it's that marrying up part. I mean, I talked to the lady who did Pure Delish cereals at the food show in Christchurch, and I said, why don't you use more New Zealand product? And she said, there is none. I said, there is. We just have to go to Canterbury. And so how much of your work is that pairing up, and where can we create that?
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity. And interestingly, I think that sits a lot around farmers realizing the power of their story and being really connected to who their eaters are. And I don't necessarily think that our systems have encouraged that, but I think moving forwards, that's definitely going to be the way to build more resilient food systems, is to find your eaters. And even if you need to do that in a small cooperative model, you can find the people who are going to eventually consume your food. And definitely a big part of my work with Eat New Zealand is making that connection with people. Yeah. And the arable sector is something I feel really passionately about, and just a huge opportunity in that space.
You'll
definitely
be a big supporter of their pledge for 100% New Zealand wheat by 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Just, you know, it's a really important part of our plate, and it creates a major food security issue for us now more than ever. And it's not just milling wheat, it sits around our other grains and beans and pulses and things like that. So it is really important to be aware of the provenance and the source of that entire food group, in order to make sure that we continue to have really good supply chains to, you know, good nutrient dense local food. I think that's really important.
So just passing, what does Eat New Zealand's next 12 months look like in your mission?
Yeah. Asked me 6 weeks ago, or asked me in another 6 weeks, and things are moving so fast at the moment, huh? But really our mission is to establish a digital presence for the New Zealand food story. We think there's huge opportunity in terms of creating aspirational and virtual travellers, so to connect agribusiness up with that opportunity to tell our story from afar, particularly when they can't go to market or we can't bring people here. But by doing that, we also reveal and unearth local food networks and create ability for our regional travellers to find our food story along our way. So that's going to be a really big thing. And the other thing we feel really strongly about is we've got some major food insecurity problems coming at us in terms of people being able to feed themselves. So we can see some amazing models around the country that have considered the solutions to that, and we're hoping to be able to sort of replicate that, and we think that hospitality has a really important role to play in that too. So it's connecting agribusiness and hospitality to make sure that we can feed our own people.
What I'm looking forward to out of level 2 is bringing up some wine to the food farm and sitting down and carrying on this conversation, Angela, because we have a lot to talk about.
We have wine.
Oh, good. Oh, wonderful. That is Angela Clifford. She's the CEO of Eat New Zealand. And I tell you what, I have been waiting for the opportunity to have her a part of Sarah's Country because, as you can imagine, we are very aligned in our belief systems. Thank you, Michael Ross, and for joining us in the comments below. Always love your comments. Jock Innes says that going back to the farmers market is what he is looking forward to under level 2. And Phil and Yvonne, I'm sure it is Wilson. Long live cockies. We can't live without them. Thumbs up. Good work. I'm loving your comments below. Make sure we're talking tonight about what are you most looking forward to being able to do under level 2. The details of that have been announced today by Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister, yet to find out a date of when that will kick in, but hopefully soon. Now, coming up next on Sarah's Country, you know we love using social media here. Of course, we're live streaming on Facebook to build a community around what matters to each of you the most. But however, there is a science to how Facebook works that is not doing farmers replying angrily to comments any good, and especially to the perception of our industry. All that with, of course, Duncan Hum from NZ Farming.
Small part of what we grow when we can. You can help us make sure no one in New Zealand goes to sleep hungry again. Visit meettheneed.org and follow us on social.
You're an active bunch tonight. That's what I like to see, and I'll get to some of these comments below. Firstly, though, what really showed me something last night, when there was a little bit of a sound glitch, everybody started saying, Joel, the sound's out. I tell you what, this man, the Irishman, he's an absolute charmer. All the guests that he's getting on the show, economists, politicians, farmers, they all fall in love with him. Joel.
That's the accent.
It is the accent.
Yeah.
I think that you should follow Joel on Instagram. Give him a bit of love. 3 Trees Joel.
If you like birds, I mean, there's not much else. It's just birds and landscapes.
What type of birds?
Oh, the flying ones with the wings, yeah.
You just got to question what some people follow on Instagram these days. Anyway, I'm loving your comments. Sandra Campbell, I love this one, knowing her. A night out at Vault 21 with the local cooking club ladies. I can just see you on the D floor down there in the Octagon, Sandra. And Stuart McGregor is looking forward to duck shooting. I don't think you're alone in that, Stuart. Now, technology companies that own these platforms like Instagram and Facebook are locked in an arms race to seize your attention, and that race is tearing apart our shared social fabric. I listened to this awesomely but scary podcast that I highly recommend, and I'll get Megan to put it in the comments below. It's called Your Undivided Attention. It exposes the hidden designs that have the power to hijack our attention, manipulate our choices, and destabilize our real-world communities. You've got to have living in Shrek's cave for the past 5 years if you have not experienced the rise of hatred, perceived hatred towards farmers in this country. Or is it just that farmers are seeing it more due to the algorithms? It's very confusing, but I am getting nervous going into another election of the tactics of the extreme left that they will pull as their voices will not be as listened to as much as New Zealand are falling in love back with our food producers. So let's do this right. If you just joined the show tonight, joining us on the show tonight to discuss his first-hand experience in moderating New Zealand's farming Facebook page is Mid-Canterbury deer farmer Duncan Hum. Firstly, Duncan, thank you so much for joining us. Level 2, what are you looking forward to the most? Of course, you've been continuing as an essential service.
Yeah, well, it's been pretty like a life of two worlds, because I've got this essential service job, as almost this life is normal. So we've got that, and then but then there's the other side. I come home to a wife who's not working aside from at home, and then daughter getting schooled at home, and it's two different worlds really. It's quite surreal.
She is the cutest little thing, that daughter of yours. I love following her. First, Duncan, can you just explain what an average day really looks like for you as the editor of such a large social media community, and how you farm in between it all?
Oh, it's just pretty much most of the time. Like if we're pretty quiet on the page, it just means that we're all busy doing something on the farm typically. So it's not often we have a real quiet day that we can do heaps, but there's usually someone on the team that can do stuff, so that's cool. But it's generally just any minute. Like I might be following a mob of deer up the lane, or just shutting a gate and putting a mob away, and just have a quick look at the updates and make sure everything's ticking along. And it's I'd hate to think what it adds up to over a day though.
Don't want your screen time report to come through on your phone.
No, I turned it off.
Hey, Duncan, NZ farming, let's be honest, it's come a long way. There'll be a lot of people that in the earlier days, it was all over the show a little bit in terms of the commentary, but it's certainly a large place now to moderate, and you do it, I believe, respectfully with the New Zealand mission in mind. How hard is it to not have bring in your own personal opinions and being able to be that because you have such a large influence now?
Yeah, we'll still, if we've feel pretty strongly about something, we'll obviously editorialise a bit, and then but most of the time it's just sort of sitting back and or just sort of picking the right topics to explore in the right way, whether it just be picking the right article to post about a subject that's, because we quite often think that if an article is written wrong or it's not explained in the right way, it can have quite a big effect on those that are reading it. And then obviously once you read the article and then have a look through the comments, those two together can be either a win or a fail.
What have you watched? And obviously, right when Facebook we really climbed into each other around misunderstandings, years ago. Have we pulled back a bit? Is it getting less aggressive? What sort of trends are you seeing?
It used to be sort of just a no holds barred
boxing match.
real Wild West. But there's still always a bit of that. But I think most people nowadays have realised that just that one post that they do can have quite a profound effect on other people, and it's a lot better sometimes. But
there has been moments on there, I've got to be honest, that I've been so mad at my fellow rural people, and in particular was the young girl that wanted to come over here to work, good-looking, beautiful girl, and the sexist, disgusting behaviour that was written underneath that. It can't be fun to be able to be the guy in charge of telling people just come on, pull your head in.
And to be when you tell people to pull their head in, and then they get pretty angry about it as if it's normal, which is was most unusual, and what was just like the coolest. One of the big things we look for a lot when because we get people messaging all the time, anyone got a job? And then when you get someone that's, once in a blue moon, we get an ad that comes through that's just so articulate and well put together, and you get a real good feel for that person and their attitude towards the job. And you're like, oh, it'd just be so awesome. That person needs a job, and they'll be the right person right there for them. So, that was definitely what we were thinking with that post, because she seemed like a real good operator, and then to have it spiral on you like that is it was pretty disappointing.
What sort of things have you seen where we've been able to achieve positive perception by putting out some really good stories on through a big platform like NZ Farming?
I think, it's probably that community spirit. I think when there's something going wrong, whether it's like a big fire or a flood or earthquake or anything like that, when the when the community just comes together and just just shows its heart and its depth, is just an amazing thing. Like last week we had a post, something drought related, guy looking for feed or something like that, and just I think in mailbox we had probably 10 people by the end of the day messaging saying, hey, we've got grazing for this guy, put us in touch. So
wow.
It's just amazing how fast it can go on a negative space, but it's just such a super cool thing when it happens in a positive light. Some cool things can happen.
And as I was just saying there in the introduction, we share the fear of that one photo that can bring all our good work down. And I mean, obviously last winter, the anti-grazing campaigners were out. What would be your advice to farmers who are a victim or target of this sort of straight up bullying, to be fair?
Yeah, well, I suppose first of all, we've got to be pretty accountable to ourselves on how does, when you drive up your road looking over your own fence, you've almost got to take a pretty, look at yourself like over your own fence like a tourist and think, well,
how do
I stack up? How do I actually stack up? And then, there will be people who don't do that will get caught, and they'll be the ones that let us down. And then there'll be other people, it's happened here on this farm a couple of times, whether it's been big rain or something, that someone's got out or something's made, mob of deer have made a muddy mess overnight, and you do just genuinely get caught sometimes. And that's the worst thing, is when people do get genuinely caught out, is when it can go wrong. If someone just happens to be driving, some tourist or activist drives past and takes a photo, then it's all on.
Just to close, Duncan, do you take your level of influence with such great weight and responsibility, do you believe?
I mean, we never thought when we started out, back in the Wild West days, that it could turn out to be this big and this popular, and it does come with a massive amount of responsibility that we have to take it pretty seriously, because whether you're just one person on Facebook or one person in charge of 200,000 people on Facebook, it's pretty big responsibility.
Duncan, there's this really awesome campaign, and we're talking to the founder of it on Monday night. It's called The Naked Farmer. Are you going to get right in behind and pushing to get in these photo submissions?
Definitely. I've got my idea already for what I'm going to do, so watch the space.
And also keep watching To Sarah's Country, because our guest towards the end of the show has been quite actively supportive of Naked Farmer, among other things, and we'll have to stay tuned to find that out. Duncan, thank you so much for taking the time, and send my love to Lorna and to Isla. That was just gorgeous family that you've got there in Mid-Canterbury, and we'll talk really soon.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Now we're going to the comments about what you are enjoying. What are you most looking forward to going into level 2? What is it going to be? Is it the ability to go to a restaurant and not have to clean the dishes afterwards like you have been for the last 6 weeks? Or is it seeing that very special family member? I know I'm certainly looking forward to visiting a few. I'd love to hear in the comments below. Sandra Campbell needs some more buddies to go rave with in the octagon. So there's lots of things, but of course we will be gathering only up to 100 people for the near future. Next on Sarah's Country, we're going to buzz into the Beehive to chat with National Party spokesman for Agriculture, Todd Muller. This is Sarah's Country.
Even when everything changes, some things will always stay the same. The cows still need milking, the economy still needs dairy, and dairy farmers will always have what it takes. Whatever you need to keep milking, our job during the lockdown is to get it to you, because we know what it takes.
Delicious. Ever wondered where it starts? Does it start with care? Respect. Fresh grass 365 days a year. The truth is, delicious doesn't start in a single moment or with a single ingredient. Delicious starts here.
Well, two coordinators, one for the North
This
Island and
is
one
Sarah's
for the South
Country.
Island, have just been announced that will join the feed working group to make up part of MPI's response to the drought across parts of the North Island. The coordinators' initial focus will be on assessing the full scale of the issue in their respective islands and working closely to connect up farmers with, of course, that most valuable available feed sources. However, National Party's spokesman for agriculture thinks that this latest relief package from Damien O'Connor has barely been a drop in the bucket, and he joins me now from Wellington. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Great to be on your show.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Nice to have you in a visual sense now. We've had a few yarns in the past.
Yes, I know. It's good to be, almost at the same set. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Todd, what is your thoughts generally around the drought response? There's been a lot of money, but has it been executed to go to the right place effectively?
Well, I think this particular $500,000 program, I think, is hugely inadequate. And actually, as I've made the point publicly, I think is a little bit of a slap in the face of the farmers that are struggling in and particularly in Hawke's Bay at a sort of once in a generational dry spell, right? And the idea that actually what they need above all else is someone to turn up, however well-meaning, with a clipboard and suggest what they should be doing to manage their farm better and how they can plan for the next season, is an insult to the experience and tradition that'll be sitting on that farm. I mean, the landed price of bales from the South Island, I understand, is over $150. I mean, what they need is feed. It's hugely expensive, and I think actually there's a case for actually some direct support to be able to help them through it. As I say, not an administrative box-ticking exercise, which farmers intuitively know anyway.
Yeah, okay, this isn't our first rodeo when it comes to droughts in New Zealand, Todd, and especially, of course, other adverse events such as flooding. Do you believe that there's a way of being able to improve the coordination of adverse events, full stop, and how we collaborate together as an industry?
Well, actually, I think the sector does it quite well, to be fair. What I've noticed, when I've listened to the people who are involved in the Rural Support Trust, often they are individuals that have been around the particular area for a long time. They have a huge amount of experience. And when you listen to what they want a faster declaration. There's nearly always the sense that it's a week or two too late, and that the interface back into Wellington and to MPI is a bit clunky, and they could, I think, get a bit more support there. But really at the core of it for me is acknowledging the fact that the people who are on the ground, who are nearly always farmers themselves and are deeply connected with that particular region, they are the best ones to be able to support and assist. And as long as you've got a culture in MPI of engaging from a culture of wanting to listen and support as opposed to, be sort of dictating from the centre in compliance, then I think the model can work. Has worked reasonably well, but I think it can work better.
Yeah, certainly. What about in response to Damien's comments that basically people should have budgeted earlier?
Well, that's there's aspects of what Damien does that I, think reasonably solid. The guy's been around a while. He's been involved in the Labour Party for 20-something years. Look, I worked with him when he was a minister, and I used to work at Zespri, 15 years ago. So he's been around the traps. As you say, it's not his first rodeo either. So the idea that he comes up with comments like that, he lets himself down bluntly, because there is an implicit criticism in that farmers have largely been passive passengers over the last few months as their environment has dried off. And nothing could be further from the truth. And if you've actually connected with farmers and if you listen to farmers, that's the feedback you get. They live this every day. They can sense when their soil moisture's heading the wrong direction. It's what they do. It's the skills that they have. And so the idea that, somehow they've found themselves in this position because they haven't planned properly, it's like his version of Deborah Russell's view that most of small businesses that are struggling under COVID, it's really their fault because they didn't have strong balance sheets. I mean, sometimes you've got to wonder which planet these guys are on.
Yeah, no, I want to jump over to the Crown irrigation investments that was part of the national government. And say, for instance, in Hawke's Bay, where you had the Toki catchment and the Ruataniwha proposal that was on the table, that obviously got taken off the table under this coalition government. How are we able to progress with this and ensure that we have that long-term security of water storage? Do you think the tables have turned? Do you think people like Shane Jones are really starting to get what's needed?
Yeah, I think they are starting to realise how important it is. Again, without being too partisan, we did have a framework in place. It was up to $400 million in terms of investment, seed funding, and a couple of proposals got off the ground in the last term. And these guys, the first thing they do was cancel it. So it's nice that they're now starting to get with the program, but I think there's a more serious question, Sarah, and that is let's open a conversation with New Zealand around how strategic our water is, not only for storage for productive catchments, but for potable water, for renewable electricity generation. It is our country's competitive advantage, and I think we have been woefully lacking in bringing a strategic approach to how we store water over successive governments. This isn't just a partisan issue that I'm taking with this government. I think that you can criticise previous governments as well. And I think one of the opportunities of coming through the last few months and seeing the reliance that this country has on food and fibre is that we can have another look at the importance of water and start reframing the debate.
Do you
think
think
absolutely critical, and it's something I'm very personally passionate in, and it's one thing I want to achieve while I'm in this Parliament, to be actually progress water storage at a strategic level for the benefit of successive generations.
Is there an opportunity to pause and be able to discuss it when it comes to water quality as well? What are you hearing inside about, because everybody's worrying, they have no idea what's happening with this policy announcement and where it's going to land. It's all very uncertain and farmers are hating uncertainty right now.
I'm hearing mixed messages, to be honest. I'm hearing some say that actually because we're in the middle of the COVID process, we should pause. And I'm hearing others say prepare for an announcement in the next couple of weeks. I think progressing fundamental reforms around freshwater and biodiversity and some of these farm plan changes at a regional council at this point in time of where we are as a country, I think is totally inappropriate. Now, I know that some will hear that and say, oh, there we go, there's the National Party saying water quality doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Every farmer knows it matters. Most people have no idea of the effort that's gone on farm, regardless of type, over the last 5 or 10 years to get our heads around what we can do to improve and demonstrate that we are. So I really take issue with the fact that firstly, the sector isn't engaged in this because they are and they're making real difference. And secondly, we absolutely need to manage farming within limits in a way that means we can still farm and still produce the world's best food for the world. I mean, we've got to get the balance right here, and I think Parker hasn't.
And on that note around balance that you just said with Parker, in terms of being able to export our food and fibre around the world and maintain our environmental standards here at home, there's a lot of pressure I'm hearing from my sources internally for him to drop one of his portfolios.
Well, there'd be he could give environment up to someone who's got a better balance and perspective, because bluntly, I think that he's a bit of a dog with a bone on this, and he's trying to rewrite wrongs as he saw them from the last time he was minister. And I think that's a poor driver of public policy and a poor driver of attitude. And you can see it actually with how he engages with the sector. He's not engaged from a position of mutual respect or reciprocity. It's more around, actually, I know what's best and I'm going to force it through. And those days are over. So if he's going to give up one, he should give up environment and keep our trade open.
Yeah, but really, is he that will take a lot to get that bone out of his mouth, to be fair. I think he'd drop trade. Who would step into trade? Because the Associate Minister in Trade is not very well known.
No, not at all. Well, of course, we have got a superb candidate in Todd McClay. I mean, he was the Trade Minister who pulled TPP together. I'm not sure whether you'd jump up and with joy if he heard me suggesting him to be the Trade Minister for this government. But, you do get to a point, and I think this is going to come in sharp focus over the next little while, that what the country needs now is the best people and the best thinking. And perhaps the government needs to realise that it's not the harbinger of all wisdom. And to get through this, they need to look across a wider group of people, perhaps in terms of helping some of their thinking.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us, National Party's spokesman for Agriculture, Todd Muller. With interest around these rumours that I'm hearing about Minister Parker and his portfolios, but who knows? Now, I'm absolutely loving one thing is getting to know you in the comments, because we do, as I call them, your repeat offenders that are watching every night or joining us whenever, of course, you can here on Serious Country. And remember, on demand on podcasts if you miss a show. But this whole fangirling over Joel has got to stop. I mean, Rosalie Wagyu, she just has a thing for you. I think Suze Bremner does as well. But, Joel, you really do wear some random clothes to work, and I'm really enjoying this new T-shirt that turned up in the mail today.
Oh, yeah. It's a pretty good one, yeah.
What is on it? Can you please just hold the camera on yourself for a bit longer, please?
Oh, okay. Is
it The Simpsons?
No, it's my favourite band as The Simpsons. They were meant to be on a world tour right now, but obviously they're not, so... they're selling merch, and figured I'd pick up a few things.
That'd be quite cute. Should we get like a Simpsons cartoon drawn of us?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, talking about music, I tell you what, saddest thing in the world, CMC Rocks, excuse me, the country music channel in Australia, not the festival, has shut up shop. Overnight I found that out, and I tell you what, that's a huge part of history. For people who love country music, it'll be like equivalent of MTV shutting down, so pretty big deal. I just can't wait until the touring industry gets back up and running and we can meet with more than 100 people at once in the same room, so it'll be quite nice. How are you getting on down in the comments below? Michael is talking about the Hawke's Bay Drought group, that there was a drought package of 77.5 million in 1989. Hopefully we can quickly create the story that Damien needs. We've done it before. Cool, thanks for sharing, Michael. Haha, Stuart McGregor, nailed it on the head. Todd for PM. Maybe thinking the same thing there, Stuart. Briar Property, I miss my two daughters. You run a small farm in Waikato and the other is a teacher in Russell in the Bay of Islands. We want a family get together along with their partners. A darn good barbecue with a few bevies. It's getting a bit cold for a barbecue, maybe a bit of a roast. But thank you so much. As I said, it's lovely to get to know you more intimately in the comments. We're in this together every night, Monday through Thursday from 7 o'clock. Now, next up is the wonderful, gorgeous and inspiring Polly Renton from Hawke's Bay, so stick around. You'll certainly want to hear from Polly.
This is Sarah's Country.
Aotearoa, New Zealand has always been a land that has provided for its people, a land of abundance and opportunity. Our dedicated team at Ag Research know that embracing kaitiakitanga will see this continue for future generations. The work we do is transforming the way we farm and revolutionizing the way New Zealanders care for our animals and for our land. We work hard to create the world's most desirable food and bio-based products through smart, sustainable farming, led by some of the world's most phenomenal research and informed by the consumers who benefit from this passion. Through a focus on environmental sustainability and climate change initiatives, this passion will allow our work to continue for generations to come. Our proficiencies in research run wide, from seeds to pest control, high-value food production to practical farming systems and quality assurance. From the smallest rural land use project to international research programs, our science and technology innovations drive the prosperity of our precious agricultural sector. It's through this research that New Zealand retains its position as a scientifically advanced global agricultural leader. Our commitment to the growth of our wider New Zealand economy, its people, and the kaitiakitanga of Aotearoa is at the very heart of every scientific innovation and creation we deliver. Ag research, firmly grounded in this land, these waters, looking to what's in the stars and the future. Ata matai, matai whetu.
I have to start off with an intense apology. I was saying at the start of the show that I'm not actually really blonde, but I have just dropped one and been pronouncing our next guest's name wrong. We have Poppy Renton with us, not Polly Renton. I tell you what, Poppy, I think the reason that I've been calling you Polly is I've had this obsession with getting a parrot and calling it Joel when he leaves me. I just want something that will just, agree with me, like Joel does, everything I say. So I'm sorry, I apologise. We have now on the show to close Poppy Renton, who is in under a week created a Facebook group called Hawke's Bay Drought. 2,000 plus people have joined that page. And of course, it's a great safe place for farmers to share their journey, share their stories, and of course, support each other with finding feed in what is just being described as one of the worst droughts that has been seen in a generation. So Poppy, of course, joins us now. Thank you so much. I know you have got a lot of media attention from your achievements at such a young age of 19. What was that first thing that kicked off for you to start the page and realise that you could have a sense of influence over this situation?
Well, Mum and I were actually just talking about it one day. We were like, we should set up a drought page sort of so farmers can get together and sort of talk about what's going on and what they're doing differently. And I was like, no one will join, it doesn't matter. And then the next day she's like, no, do it. And she went out and fed the ewes and lambs and everything, came back and I had set it up already for her. And yeah, it's just taken off from there.
What has been some of the most, can I ask to start with, heartbreaking stuff that you've, of course, obviously with no names or situations that you can reference to directly, but just about how hard it is?
There's not been really any heartbreaking stories, just everyone saying that they're all in it together. Everyone is struggling. It's just more the fact that everyone's trying to get feed supplements and they can't, and the prices of them are going through the roof while the prices of the animals are going down. But yeah, it's just that going on, really.
And I can imagine it wouldn't just be, like I've joined the group, it wouldn't just be people that are actively farming in Hawke's Bay. Is there quite a nice range of people and comments of support across the board?
Yeah, there's everyone really, like from Auckland to the South Island, farmers, non-farmers, just everyone's sort of coming together, learning about what's going on if they don't know, or trying to help out even.
You told me a really cute story this morning.
Yeah. There was a girl that messaged me saying, I'm a townie, but what if we got 40 houses to mow their lawns and take them to a farm so they could feed it to their cows? It was really cute, but it wouldn't really work that way.
But at least they're thinking like that, in terms of creative ways to be able to support.
Yeah, it's amazing how people are thinking, this could help. And it's cool. Yeah. That's what we want. We want people to start thinking about how they can help each other, really.
So, of course, you're a young lady in the start of her career. I mean, you're obviously farming from farming stock in the Hawke's Bay. You've got a real passion for the industry that's kicked you off. I think this is certainly going to take you a long way, Poppy, that you don't probably realise.
Yes, I have been told that a few times, that I don't realise how big this is going to get, and I don't, because I didn't realise it was going to get this big as it has already, and it's only been 6 days.
Yeah, wow. So what would be the highest sort of discussion that is being had on the page? Is it really just pairing up of feed, or is it more just making sure people feel supported, that they're not alone?
It's a big mixture of everything, from people just trying to make others laugh to have what rain we had the other day. Some people got 20 mils while others got 5 or 4. It's people coming on there saying, hey, we've got hay and baleage for anyone that needs it, or I can get rid of some stock for anyone that needs to offload. I was just jumped on when I first signed up and had a look. There's a bit of a character, is it called Wayne, who was telling everybody that they need to go and have a dip in the pond in the middle of winter. Yeah. He was doing the naked challenge, or trying to, at least. Talking about that, you're a brave young woman when it comes to getting nude. Yes. quite the nice way to segue into that, wasn't it? Put some context around it, please, Sarah. There's a campaign that's been launched by Will to Live, my sister Ellie's campaign, and alongside the Naked Farmer out of Australia. And basically it's a nude photo competition, of course, and very, classy. And Poppy wants to really ramp up and make sure that some of these prizes go to people from Hawke's Bay. Are you having much luck leaning on your fellow Hawke's Bay farming community to get their kit off? No, it's hard. It's hard work. I've been trying to bribe people and everything. It's just, no one wants to get their kit off. I was like, even a 19-year-old girl can do it. Surely a big, strong bloke can go out there and do it. And this is all in the name of mental health. Everybody needs to understand. It's of course, if you are brave enough to take your kit off and you're brave enough to talk about what's going on for you. It's been huge in Australia, and I honestly do believe we'll get we'll get some creativity in behind it all. I mean, you've got what about the magpies? They'll love getting nude. Surely. Hopefully we can do something with them about it. Yeah, absolutely. I can just think of quite a few people around the Hawke's Bay that I'd like to not like to see nude, to be fair. Everybody's beautiful in their own skin, I must say. I don't want to encourage that. But yeah, I mean, it's just some of those little things to be able to take your mind off the situation and realise what's out of your control sometimes, isn't it, Poppy? Yes, well, it has a good push behind it and everything as well. It is for mental health, but it also, the comments that I got was, oh, it's great, like you put a big smile on my face today, like that's the best thing that's happened today and everything. So that's another good thing that has come out of it. People are finding it funny, and well, funny when I do it, at least. They haven't gone and done it. Good on you, Poppy. Well done. Congratulations on behalf of all of the listeners and viewers here tonight on Sarah's Country. You're doing absolute God's work by connecting, as we've been talking about tonight. There is people in this world that's just job is to connect people, and they're passionate and love it. And Poppy Renton, I know that you've got a long career ahead of you in the agricultural industry. I can feel it. Now, people who want to be able to join the group, if you wouldn't mind just giving us another bit of a shout out. Hawke's Bay Drought. It's a group, and if you just go add, then Poppy will link you in. Yes. And good. And everyone's welcome. And as we were talking there before to Duncan from NZ Farming, hopefully there's no riffraff in there, otherwise Poppy will deal to you.
Awesome. Well done, Poppy Renton from Hawke's Bay Drought Facebook group. That's all we have time for tonight. And if you've missed any of the previous shows, you know where to look. If you don't, Sarah's Country Podcast on demand, Farmers Weekly YouTube channel, 2 really good places to go. Go and check out my website, sarahperium.com, or of course all the wonderful news stories every day at farmersweekly.co.nz. Now, send me suggestions for guests. I want to hear from you, sarah@periummedia.com. The show is for you. I love hearing who you want to hear from and what you want me to ask them, of course. So good night, go well, and just give some consideration to getting your kid off, all in aim for mental health. This is Sarah's Country.